I think it's time to blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Jazz, a type of American music with lively rhythms and melodies that are often made up by musicians as they play. This is the strict definition, but the actual music is a much more complex mixture of many styles, cultures, and time periods. To truly understand jazz, you have to go to the beginning.
The earliest known form of jazz was a style called ragtime that developed during the 1870s. Ragtime was characterized by ragged rhythms, and the main instrument was the piano. It was mainly used as a fun style of music to dance to. The music playing right now is called The Entertainer by Scott Joplin, and is one of, if not the most, well-known ragtime pieces.
Come the 1900s, jazz began its actual development in New Orleans, otherwise known as Dixieland. New Orleans jazz developed as a mixture of spiritual music, field hollers of plantation slave workers, ragtime syncopated beat, and the driving marching and sounds of brass bands. In New Orleans, all these elements came together in a melting pot that eventually produced jazz. This led to jazz being a very diverse style of music, which is probably what allows it to adapt to different times.
As the Great Depression began, another form of jazz, known as swing jazz, hit the music scene. Swing uses a strong rhythm section consisting of a double bass, piano, and drum set to anchor the hard swing beat of the band. The verb to swing is also used as a term of praise for playing that has a strong groove or drive.
Bebop shares many of the same characteristics as swing, except at a much faster tempo. It was developed in the mid-1940s and became synonymous with modern jazz. This was entirely created by the counterculture of musicians who wanted to create a style of non-dance music. This allowed them to experiment with more complex syncopations and rhythms. This is probably the most famous form of jazz, with popular musicians like John Coltrane, Charlie the Bird Parker, Dexter Gordon, and Dizzy Gillespie.
Following World War II, cool jazz gained popularity. It was referred to as a softer bebop characterized by slower tempos and a more relaxed feel. It was combating the same bebop that combated swing.
Hard bop was an extension of bebop, with the influence of blues and gospel. This had a funkier feel to it and is often associated with soul jazz. This is the other famous form of jazz, with musicians like Charles Mingus, Cannonball Adderley, and Miles Davis.
Free jazz, otherwise known as avant-garde jazz, was a total dissociation from the previous forms of jazz. It broke free from the strict limitations of rhythm, style, and even tone and tempo. It was basically trying to break all the barriers and make jazz a free atmosphere for creativity. Despite being extremely fun for musicians, it's not as pleasant for the listener. It sounds kinda like a band warming up. Poorly.
He wanted to free himself from playing these strict changes that the bass player and the piano player would lay these chords down, you know? And he played just about everything he could play on these chords. He played them upside down, he turned them around, he played them sideways. He did just about everything he could do. And playing with the drums, he didn't have to deal with chord changes and keys and stuff like that. So he was free to play however he wanted to play.
In the late 1960s, jazz was losing popularity to other forms of music, like rock and roll. In an attempt to keep the music mainstream, several musicians began adding electronic instruments and backings into their music. This mixture of the new electronic style and hard bop became known as fusion.
Contemporary jazz refers to the period of time from the 1980s to the present. Contemporary serves as an umbrella term for current styles of jazz like fusion, funk, pop jazz, crossover, and smooth.
In modern day, jazz seems to have lost its popularity. However, while jazz itself may not be prevalent, many of the rhythms, styles, and characteristic sounds that make up jazz are very present in modern media today.
swing high.
But I had the uneasy feeling that he was guarding secrets.
I wish I'd done everything on earth with you.
That's an echo, gentlemen. Just a little something we have here in Louisiana. A little parlor trick, don't worry. Sit down at my table. Put your minds at ease. If you relax, it will enable me to do anything I please. I can read your future. I can change it around some too. I look deep into your heart and soul. You do have a soul, don't you, Lawrence?
It is for this reason that jazz is still very prevalent in today's society. Jazz will continue to evolve and be a part of society and our media, whether we recognize it or not. And honestly, if you don't believe me, just watch.
Don't believe me, just watch. Don't believe me, just watch. Don't believe me, just watch. Don't believe me, just watch.